Recording. All right, so do you guys remember that if you had a parabola that kind of looked like this, you do not have to copy this, just listen for just a second. Do you remember if I had y equals x squared, that was a parabola graph? All right, and you kind of knew what it looked like, and then there was another one that came along, and it was a V-shaped graph like this. Do you remember what that one was called? So absolute value, very good. So that one was like y equals the absolute value of x. All right, so what if I wanted to move them up? Like move them up 2 spots? Well, you just put a +2 on the outside. Do you remember that? And if I wanted to move it left or right, that would have to go on the inside. Like if I made it -1, do you remember that deal where it was to the right 1? If you forgot it, you got to get those back because that's going to happen again today. Because the new graph for today is different looking. It's a parent graph. You just have to remember things like, so write this example now. Write that one out, and I'll tell you which way everything moves. If, for example, you wanted to know what that did to my function, it moved it right 1. The way to think of it is the stuff on the inside is the horizontal on the inside. That's the high. And it's vertical on the outside. So anything that's on the outside of the function, like these things, the bars, anything's outside there, that's a vertical change. And then last but not least, if there's something in the front, does that feel like it's inside or outside? It's outside, you are correct. So this is also a vertical on the outside. Now I'm going to name all of them. This one's right 1, and of course that means if I changed it to a plus sign, then that would mean the other way. It'd be left 1. But minuses go to the right. And I know that should seem counterintuitive because the stuff on the inside does the opposite of what you would expect. But the stuff on the outside, is normal. And so this is vertical, and then it just means up, just like you would think. Plus seems like up, it is up. Stuff on the inside is the opposite of what you'd expect. Tons of kids get those wrong on the test because they're like, minus, that goes to the left. And then, yeah, and it's the opposite of that. You've got to do the opposite of what you expect. It's called counterintuitive. All right, and then how about this negative in the front? That's called a reflect. And if it's in the front, it's a vertical reflect. Why do you care? Because on your next test, they're going to give you a problem that's like this. Y equals negative 1 over x plus 4 minus 3. And they're going to say, which way did the graph move? And you have to go, oh, it's 4 this way, 3 that way. And that negative, you have to know if it's a vertical or a horizontal reflect. So, how is this different? Well, it doesn't have a clear inside, but I hope you'd realize this part is the inside. Do you remember me saying there's implied parentheses there? That's what makes that the inside part. Okay? So, this is like seriously exactly the kind of question we'd ask you on the test. And would you be able to tell the 3 things? 1, 2, 3. Somebody tell me one of the ways this function moved. Just say it.
Down 3.
Down 3. That's what that means. You're right. Let's not worry about what order it would be in, because I think on the homework for today, we don't care about the order. Mauricio, what else do you think?
Left 4.
Left 4 is correct. And where else did the parent function move? Well, it didn't kind of move for this. It flipped, but there's an official math word for flip, reflection. But if you just write reflect, I have to write it wrong or mark it wrong, and I'll cry a little bit if a kid got this far because like, oh, they just had to say whether it's vertical or horizontal. And if the negative is there, that's on the outside. And that means it's a vertical on the outside, a vo, high vo. Vertical on the outside, so it's a vertical reflect. I'm even okay with you just saying V reflect. And there you go. Now, one more thing. This is going to mess with some of your heads. But if I was going to put this negative somewhere, do you get I could put it right there? And so that's just the same as if it was out here. And I know that feels a little bit like it's gone to the inside, but it hasn't. The inside is inside those red parentheses. Because anything that's in front, if I decided to, here, I could put the -1 right here and just have a 1 placeholder there. Anything that's on the outside could multiply right up to there. All right, now, here's what these graphs look like. And thankfully today it's mostly multiple choice. You aren't going to actually have to graph any. So there's what your graph looks like. And this is the horizon, right? So horizontal asymptote, which is at y = 0. And the vertical asymptote is the one that goes up and down like that. And that's at x = 0. Those always confused me because it's the y-axis, but it's x = 0, and that's what it is. They're counterintuitive that way. The one that's like the horizon, this one here, that one is y = 0, even though it's the x-axis. And that's the horizontal asymptote. And the graph, this 2 curvy lines here, all of that stuff would move if I like added 1 on the outside. Everything would move up. So if you were given an equation for this, I hope you know it would be just the simplest 1 over x. It hasn't been moved anywhere. This is the parent one. That's the most clean, simple, rational that there is. Just have to memorize how that thing looks. That is your new parent function, which you're going to move all over the place. It has 2 key points, and that's when you stick in 1, do you get, if you put x = 1, look at how y = 1 also. Right? You can see x = 1 because I put a 1 on top of the x. Do you get that also would mean y = 1? So that spot right there is at 1, 1. If I made a list of the important points, is really only 2. 1, 1, and that spot right there, which is -1, 1, because if I put a -1 in the x, y equals, what simplifies to -1. So these are my 2 key points, right there and there, which is right here and here. And then it's got those asymptotes. All right. Now I know if I just drew you a graph and said, here's the asymptotes, you could tell I just moved it up and to the right compared to where it used to be. And my graph could just be graphed in like this. I should use a different color. Hold on. Like that and that. Everything just moved to the right and up. So what would the equation be for that? It'd be 1 over x, but it moved to the right 2 spots. So I'm going to go -2 inside there. And it moved up 2 spots, +2 on the outside. Now, the thing I want to show you is you can tell where the asymptotes are by looking here. That right there, that moved the whole thing up, that gives you the horizontal asymptote. It lives, whatever's on the outside, that's the horizontal asymptote. So y = 2, that's where it comes from. If you're looking at the graph, it's like, duh, it's this line here. But if you're looking at the equation, the horizontal asymptote is right there. If you're looking at the equation, this thing that moved it to the right 2, that's this one. That's the vertical asymptote. But you don't trust it. It seems like it should be -2. Remember how you don't trust the inside? The vertical asymptote would be x = +2. That was a lot, but that's everything I needed to show you for today. Now we're just going to see if you really understood it or not. So here's an example one. Everybody please write this one down. Y equals 1 over x minus 4 plus 7 first thing I'd ask on a test would be, which way did it move? So write down the answer to that. Which way did this thing move? The second thing I'd ask is, where are the asymptotes now? Jonathan, which way did it move?
Right, 4 and up 7.
Right, 4 and up 7. You are correct. And I know it's easy, it's hard to like remember which one's which, but the x equals thing, that's the vertical asymptote. The horizontal, that's the y equals thing. I have a dumb way to remember that. The vertical is the zertical asymptote. See, it starts with an x. The horizontal is the horizontal. It starts with a y. See, I'm trying to mix the horizontal and the y together to help you remember which one's which. And the vertical one is coming from down here, and you don't trust it, so it's not -4, it's 4. And the horizontal one is the one that gets moved up. You know the horizon line that goes across like this? It got moved up 7, so that's the new horizontal, and you trust it, so you just say y equals 7. That's the main things you have to know from this, is which way it moves, right and left and up and down, and which one's vertical. And the one on the bottom is the vertical. The horizontal one is the one that's out here. Horizontal one out there. Okay, cool. Let's start your homework. It's a Schoology quiz. It's got 6 questions. I believe you. Just find the homework quiz. That's your homework. It's got 6 questions. Should be pretty easy homework for the weekend. I cut a bunch of questions out to make it more doable. All right. That's all I got for you for today. Remember, you're not handing in your top 20. You're keeping it so you know, or your first 20, sorry, so you know where your weaknesses are. Have a great day.